Cari dekat mana?
Assalamualaikum, very good morning Tan Sri Anwar, Pengarah AKEPT, Datuk Nesh, Dr. Wardah, Team UMS, and then I see Tan Sri Azlan is also here just now. Welcome and welcome to everyone, to all the participants. Thank you for being with us today, this morning with AKEPT and UMS for this particular event. There, I see Tan Sri Azlan kat situ. Assalamualaikum Tan Sri. Assalamualaikum Datuk Nesh. Assalamualaikum Tan Sri Anwar. Good to see all these people. And also Prof. Jenny. Welcome. Very good morning, Prof. Jenny. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
Assalamualaikum Datuk. Welcome back Datuk.
Tan Sri Anwar sihat ya?
Alhamdulillah, Prof.
Lama
Nice to
tak
see
jumpa.
you. Nice to see you, Prof.
Ya,
Tan Sri
Alhamdulillah.
Azlan pun nampak makin muda Tan Sri Azlan tu. Terima kasihlah invite saya, Prof. Taufik.
Terima kasih semua panel yang dapat bersama dengan program AKEPT UMS ini.
Thank you. Terima kasih.
Okay, Dato, I think we can start.
All right, thank you, Prof. Wardah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as we are about to begin, please be seated virtually. I have a few housekeeping notes just to share with you all. Certificate of participations will be provided through emails later on. Question and feedback will be allowed during using the chat box. Thank you for your kind of cooperation and attention. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greetings and good morning to all the respected dignitaries. Yang berbahagia, Professor Dato Dr. Nasruddin Muhammad, Director of Higher Education's Leadership Academy, AKEPT. Yang berusaha, Associate Professor Dr. Yazrina Yahya, Deputy Director, Center for Leadership Sustainability, Higher Education's Leadership Academy, AKEPT Malaysia. Yang berbahagia, Professor Tan Sri Datuk Sri Dr. Nazlan Ghazali, Executive Director, National Economic Action Council of Malaysia. Yang berbahagia, Professor Datuk Dr. Taufik Yap Yun Hin, Vice Chancellor, Universiti Malaysia Sabah. Honorable guests, distinguished panelists, leaders of higher learning institutions from various countries, esteemed academics, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's webinar, the second AKEPT Global Series University Leaders Forum on preparing students for the post-COVID-19 graduate labor market. I am Dato Razali, Dato Haji Iranza, and on behalf of AKEPT Global Series Organizing Committee, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you. We appreciate you taking time off your busy schedules to join us today. We hope that the webinar today will be fruitful and engaging. The webinar today is jointly organized by Higher Education's Leadership Academy, AKEPT Malaysia, in collaboration with Center for Internationalizations and Global Engagement, Universiti Malaysia Sabah. The webinar today is the second AKEPT Global Series, and we have invited prominent university leaders to share their insights, experience, and practices as leaders in higher education institutions across the world. To begin the webinar today, I would like to invite Yang berbahagia, Professor Dato Dr. Nasruddin Muhammad, Director of Higher Education's Leadership Academy, AKEPT Malaysia, to deliver the opening remarks. Let us welcome Yang berbahagia, Professor Dato Dr. Nasruddin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Alhamdulillah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Associate Professor Dr. Yazrina Yahya, Deputy Director, Higher Education Leadership Academy, AKEPT. Honorable panelists, Professor Datuk TS Dr. Taufik Yap Yun Hin, Vice Chancellor, Universiti Malaysia Sabah. Professor Dr. He Jenny Su, President, National Cheng Kung University, NCKU, Taiwan. Professor Dr. Fatur Rahman, Rector, Universitas Negeri Semarang, UNES, Indonesia. Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Anwar Ali, Chancellor, University of Cyberjaya, UOC, Malaysia. Tan Sri Dr. Nur Azlan, the moderator, Associate Professor Dr. Wadatul Akmal Din, Deputy Director of Center for Internationalization and Global Engagement, Universiti Malaysia Sabah. University representatives from Malaysia and across the world. Alhamdulillah, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. It is a pleasure to be here among you today. I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala most profoundly for his mercy. I wish to extend a very warm welcome to the second AKEPT Global Series, a collaborative effort between the Higher Education Leadership Academy, AKEPT, and Universiti Malaysia Sabah, UMS. The program gathers university leaders across the world to share their thoughts, their insights on issues surrounding international higher education. And today, we are honored to have distinguished panel of experts to share their experiences and wisdom as university leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have come to the final series of University Leaders Forum that had been conducted for the first time in August 2021. With the topic preparing students for the post-COVID-19 graduates labor market, this debate will highlight on graduate employability during the pandemic. It is timely for leaders of higher education to think of the way forward for improving the employability of graduates and giving them the best start as they enter the job market. I believe the experts invited across Asia will be able to share their thoughts, knowledge, and opinions with the rest of us. For more than a year, the COVID-19 pandemic-induced economic downturns have disrupted young workers and students entering countries' workforces. As a result, young adult unemployment is growing in an age where global economic inequality was already on the rise well before the pandemic hit. And the pandemic recession has had a disproportionate impact on the job prospects of young workers. According to the International Labour Organization, the ILO, the decline in employment rates in 2020 among young workers internationally was 2.5 times greater than that experienced by adults. As all of you are aware, we are still in crisis like no other. The pandemic has sent shockwaves globally, and we in the educational industry are of no exemption. History has taught us that the greatest challenges like today's COVID-19 often have a silver lining, that the emergence of creative and successful leaders. So to that end, I applaud such an occasion as this forum today for such leaders to communicate their ideas and share their insights that might help others. The COVID-19 mess for education is a unique one. We have limited information about the likely path of the pandemic. Ministers, educators, communities, families, and learners will all have to make decisions in a context of radical uncertainty. Prior to this pandemic, students have been studying for their degree with the hope that all of their hard graft will eventually pay off and landed up with a good job. But who could have predicted that 2020 would be the year the world would grind to a complete halt? No one will be able to answer the question of what happens next. As much as we plan, but everything is interconnected between the supply and the demand of the workforce. The impact of COVID-19 on recent and upcoming graduate employability has been felt globally. Some of the big questions asked are what are the key challenges graduates are currently facing when it comes to the world of work? And what can higher education institutions do to prepare their graduates for the new employment landscape? My fellow audience, AKEPT, the Higher Education Leadership Academic wing of the Ministry of Higher Education, has been taking the initiatives to transform the higher education society, in which leadership forums not only locally but also globally. AKEPT, as some of you may have known, is the leadership academy that provides the profiling of higher learning institution leaders in Malaysia, training to enhance the leaders' skill set and also provide the up-to-date knowledge in order to enrich the leaders in leading their institutions. The major outcomes that we expect from this forum is the national and international best practice in the field of education around the world that could be taken on the board to lead to the betterment of our students and institutions. So I wish all your participation will make this forum a successful one. Last but not least, I would like to thank all the panelists, all the participants from all partners around the world, as well as all from Malaysia and the hardworking hosts and committees for all your efforts and contributions. To all the participants, do participate actively in the online discussion. Finally, I wish everyone a successful and fruitful forum. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank both AKEPT and UMS, Universiti Malaysia Sabah, once again for organizing this program, and I applaud such an occasion as this webinar today provides the platform for such leaders to communicate their ideas and share their insight that might help others. With the lafaz Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I hereby officiate AKEPT Global Series University Leaders Forum in collaboration with UMS on the theme titled Preparing Students for the Post-COVID-19 Graduates Labor Market. Thank you.
Thank you, Yang Berbahagia, Professor Dr. Nasruddin Muhammad, Director of AKEPT Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, the future of work after COVID-19, as published by McKinsey Global Institute, stated that the pandemic accelerated the existing trends in terms of remote work, e-commerce, and automations. While according to international labor organizations, employment growth will only be sufficient after 2023, and global unemployment is expected to stand out at 205 million people in 2022, with an unemployment rate of 5.7%, which a rate that we have seen back in 2013. So recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic is just not a health issue. It requires deliberate effort from various institutional stakeholders and leaders. So hence, the webinar today brings together panelists from international universities, joining with our Malaysian prominent university leaders to share insights and discuss on preparing students for the post-COVID-19 graduates labor market. For the Universities Leaders Forum today, allow me to introduce the panel session moderator, Yang Busaha Associate Professor Dr. Wadatul Akmamuddin has been the Deputy Director of the Center for Internationalizations and Global Engagement, Universiti Malaysia Sabah since 2017. She has been involved in the teaching of English as second language for 24 years. Prior to the appointment as the Deputy Director, she has served various positions in the universities, including Deputy Deans at Center for Promotional of Knowledge and Language Learning, as well as the Deputy Director of UMS Foundation Center. So together with us, we have Associate Professor Dr. Wadatul Akmamuddin, the moderator of the session. Allow me to proceed to introduce our panelists. The first panel in 2015 was the first female president in the 85-year history of National Cheng Kung University. She is an outstanding leader of top 100 award-winning researchers, academics, innovations, and leaders in the Asian Scientist magazine back in 2018, a recipient for the 2017 Outstanding Research Award from the Ministry of Science and Technology, Taiwan, and as well as one of the 10 Science Stars of East Asia by leading journal Nature. Professor Dr. Jenny Su Huizhen博士 is currently a distinguished professor of environmental health at the National Cheng Kung University, NCKU in Taiwan. Her research focused on air pollution's related health crisis, the effects, emphasis on airborne microbial hazards. Professor Dr. Jenny Su was also an expert committee member that prepared the World Health Organization's WHO report on biological agents in indoor environment. She was honored by her alma mater with the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health Leadership Award in 2017 for one of the best practice in public health practice. The award recognized the outstanding effort and exemplary leadership of Professor Dr. Jenny Su. The second panel with us, Professor Dr. Fatul Rohman, Rector of Universitas Negeri Semarang, UNES, Indonesia. Professor Dr. Fatul has obtained his PhD from Gajah Mada University, Yogyakarta in 2003. He started his career as a senior high school teacher back in 1990s before joining KIP Semarang, now known as UNES, served as the head of research center of UNES since 1998 until 2007. Prior to the appointment, prior to the appointment as director of UNES, Professor Dr. Fatul was the vice rector for development and partnership of UNES from 2007 up until 2013. To this date, Professor Dr. Fatul has been director since June 2013. Notable achievement of Professor Dr. Fatul, including exemplary lecturer of AKEPT Semarang, now UNES, and best Indonesian language user figures. Professional memberships of Professor Dr. Fatul not limited to the members of Indonesian Trustee Associations, or in Indonesia's Malay, known as Himpunan Pembina Bahasa Indonesia since 1991. Allow me to proceed with the third panel. Yang berbahagia, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Dr. Anwar Ali, Chancellor, University of Cyberjaya, Malaysia. Yang berbahagia, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri is one of the leading figures in Malaysian academics, currently appointed as the Chancellor of University of Cyberjaya, Malaysia. Yang berbahagia, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Economics degree from the Queen's University, Belfast, Northern Ireland in 1970. Tan Sri, he furthered his study and obtained his master's and PhD from the University of Leicester and University of Kent, Canterbury, United Kingdom. Tan Sri has also been appointed as the member of Board of Governors of the Emeritus University since 2017. Previously, he was the President and Vice Chancellor of Open University Malaysia, OUM, for 12 years. OUM was the first open and distance learning institutions in the country, which was established back in 2000 as a private university. Prior to the current appointment, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri was the Vice Chancellor of Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, UKM, for 5 years, 1998 to 2003. Before that, he was the Dean of the Faculty of Economics, UKM, and thereafter, the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs. Within a span of more than 40 years, since 1973, when he joined UKM as a tutor, he has established himself not only as an economist, but also as an academic leader. He was the first academic being posted to the ministry as the Director of Higher Education in 1996 until 1998. His previous experience, including chairman of the Southeast Asian Open Learning Center based on Jakarta, member of the Griffith Asia Pacific Council, Australia, board members of the Association of Southeast Asian Institute of Higher Education, and various positions as well. He was appointed as an economic consultant to a number of national and international projects, such as UNIDO, consultant to the Industrial Master Plan Malaysia 1986, and the Action Plan for Small and Medium Scale Industries Malaysia. The fourth panelist. The fourth panelist today is a remarkable local phenomenon. A local Sabahan that is ranked as the world top 2% scientist, as ranked by Stanford University in 2020. He is also a professional technologist who was awarded Malaysia's Research Star Award by the Ministry of Education, Elsevier, back in 2018. Yang berbahagia, Professor Datuk Chemist Technologist Dr. Taufik Yap Yun Hin, currently is the Vice Chancellor of Universiti Malaysia Sabah, who obtained his PhD in the field of heterogeneous catalysis from University of Manchester Institute of Science and Technology, UMIST, United Kingdom in 1997. Prior to the appointment as the Vice Chancellor of Universiti Malaysia Sabah, Professor Datuk Taufik Yap was a professor at Department of Chemistry, University Putra Malaysia since 2007 until 2019. To this date, he has been a visiting professor to more than 12 universities, including Henan Agriculture University, King Saud University, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, Institute 10 November, Indonesia, Nagoya University, Japan, University of Technology, Petronas, Curtin University, Sarawak, and Cardiff University, United Kingdom. Currently, he is actively sitting as the chairman and board members for more than 10 councils, institutes, and associations. Some of the academic awards, including Excellence Service Award by University Putra Malaysia in 2017, Top Researcher Scientist Malaysia, awarded by the Academy Science of Malaysia. Apart from the various academic awards by the international bodies and national organizations, Professor Dr. Taufik Yap has also been awarded for the 2018 Mal Hijrah's Special Award by the Government of Malaysia and the National Tokoh Maulidur Rasul in 2017. To summarize, more than 40 categories of awards and achievements by Professor Dr. Taufik Yap Yun Hin, he has been awarded for the Excellent Service Award for 10 consecutive years from 2000 to 2010, Excellence Research Award for 9 consecutive years from 2001 to 2009. So that is the local phenomenon, prominent leaders that we have joining with us today. So with that note, I shall pass over the sessions to our moderator, Yang Bersahab, Professor Dr. Wadato.
My heartfelt thanks to our Mr. Chairman, Dr. Razali Dr. Ranza, for your kind introduction. I think before we proceed, I think we need to do something I think one of the most important thing that we need to do every time we have this kind of meetings. Let's record our momentous event today by taking our photos. Could all of us please on our mic, on our camera and smile so that the technical team can take the photo for all of us. Okay, I think right. Okay. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to everyone here with us today. Not forgetting all our distinguished guests, esteemed panelists, and all our participants who are joining us here on Webex and also on FB Live. Welcome to our University Leaders Forum. I would like to thank the Higher Education Leadership Academy, AKEPT, for entrusting us, University Malaysia Sabah, with this responsibility. Now, first and foremost, allow me to share a bit of housekeeping as to the format for our forum today. Now, the format for this morning will be the sharing of ideas and wisdom from each of our 4 panelists. My dearest panelists, you'll be given a maximum of 15 minutes each, at which I will raise my hand like this. Where is my hand? Okay, I will raise my hand like this if you are left with about 2 to 3 minutes, yeah? Okay. And then after all of you have shared your perspective, your opinions, and your experiences, we will follow the session with a question and answer session, yeah? Now, my dear audience and panelists, I think all of us would agree that when the COVID-19 pandemic hits, the impact reverberates across the society. That's a given. We've spent months at home, many of us trying to do our jobs and keep up with our work remotely, sitting for hours on end in front of our tables and tablets and computers, right? The university and its community is no exception to the rule. The COVID-19 pandemic is not only a global health crisis, I believe it is also a catalyst for reimagining the way we want to live forward. Thus, I believe the topic for our discussion today, which is preparing students for the post-COVID-19 graduate labor market, is a timely topic. So I hope today all of us can learn from the wisdom and inspiring experiences from 4 different institutions from 3 different countries via our forum. Now, universities are places where students live and study in close proximity to each other, used to be. There are also buzzing cultural hubs where students are brought together from different nations around the world. Now, recently, the foundations of this unique ecosystem have been impacted significantly by the rapid spread of the coronavirus, creating uncertainty regarding the implication for higher education. Urgent and careful planning definitely is needed to mitigate negative effects of the pandemic on university education. It is clear that to all graduates that a common reason for seeking higher education is the positive impact it can have on their graduate job prospect. With the arrival of COVID-19, the way we work appeared to change almost overnight. Businesses faced disruption of supplies, offices were forced to close, and for many companies, economic growth slowed. But what about the longer term effect of the pandemic on the way we work? Now, through the eyes of the panelists, we will be discussing the challenges faced by education institutions in this COVID-19 pandemic in preparing our graduates for the job market and sharing their best practices in the field of education around the world that could be taken on board to lead to the betterment of students and the institution. My dear panelists, I believe some of the questions that we are going to reverberate are: one, what does employability means at the end of 2021 and future forward? What are the skills that we feel, what are the competencies that we feel are required after the pandemic? How should we universities prepare our students for the world work post-pandemic? And how should that be reflected in their delivery model or course offerings? Could you also share with us what are some of the key challenges graduates are currently facing when it comes to the world of work? And finally, maybe you can wrap up on thinking about what will the industry like to see in our graduates. Should the university upskill or reskill the students to cater some of the industries needed? Okay, so my dear participant, right? You are invited to post your question throughout the forum session on in the Webex chat box or in the FB chat box, and we will try to utterly best to address as many permitted by time. Now, without further delay, I would like to invite our first panelist today, Professor Dr. Huijen Jenny Su, the President of National Cheng Kung University, Taiwan, to start the ball rolling. The floor is yours, Prof.
Okay, good morning to all my respectable panelists on this very, very important and meaningful sections for me as well. And I'm so pleased and feeling privileged to be able to be invited back to join the session this last year. This is a very challenging time for many of us in this institution. And I have to also apologize in advance because I actually was scheduled to be on a sort of a ministry level of important meeting that is already scheduled very, very early in my calendar. But what I wanted so much to also meet my old friends here from Universiti Malaysia Sabah, and also the colleagues that I feel very much motivated and inspired last year when I joined, last time when I joined a similar session. So we did communicate with the organizer, and it was we were given a green light. It was okay in your sector. So I probably would have to leave 12 sharp if that's the situation occurs. So let me very, very briefly go through some of the sentiments and observations we have, at least from my side, as well as from Taiwan, for responding to one of the those four sort of points that is addressed and mentioned earlier by the organized. I think first of all, when we look at the employability at the end of 2021, what our observation is, as far as I'm concerned, as far as our institutions are concerned, employability means one's readiness to really develop his or her own life path, regardless of the job one is offered or the task one is given in the time to come. I think so much we have observed with the experiences since last year that every minute the situation is changed. The challenge is changed, and even the job that seems to be already made available, or the job description seems to be have already standing there for years, have to be changed as well, with the challenges or the situation occurred from the pandemic situation. Therefore, for the graduates from this year on or from the time to come, I think one thing they have to really get themselves ready for is whether they have gathered the strength or the capacity to really plan and to really develop his life path along the way, whenever and however the job is presented to him or her. And this is at least one thing that we think foreseeably will definitely happen after the pandemic experiences. On the second sort of aspect, as far as how would the university prepare the students for the world of work post-pandemic, and how should that be reflected in their delivery model and the course offerings? I think what we have done, at least in Taiwan and most of the institutions that we have worked with, is that we aggressively increase the presence or the percentage of quote unquote response to change in all the courses offerings. And I have seen my faculty throughout all the departments. And for your information, we are a comprehensive university with a long history. And that means that we have the academic domains from the overall liberal arts, from engineering sciences, very heavily emphasize the science and technology education. We also have a firm and very large faculty group or a student group in the area of basic science. Not to mention, we have one of the largest medical center as well, which offers a very important critical mass to the medical sort of personnel and healthcare workers in the country. We also have the design faculty for urban design, for architecture, for the future of industrialized or non-industrialized sector of the country's development. So for all the faculty and for the courses that I have seen them in the past year since 2020 to now, is that not only they have to moderate their form of delivery, the coursework, but I have seen them periodically and regularly change the course emphasis in the level of how students is picking up the notion of making sure that they are able to respond to changes. Okay, none of the issues will stay like how they were told or how the faculty were educated 20, 10, or 30 years ago. And so they have now learned along with the students to make sure that their particular understanding, their particular preparation, their particular competency in analyzing the changing topic, the changing situation, is equipped to the student through everyday coursework. I have also seen our faculty and our sort of curriculum emphasize more and further on the area of making sure they deliver the solution. They also put in emphasis on analyzing whether these solutions they have come up is actually feasible to be delivered or to be employed or executed in the respective sector or the respective region. We are enjoying a huge group of international students coming through 70 different countries. We make sure that these students are able to present their views on this specific agenda from their different cultural background or different social economic background of their mother country. Those issues are now brought up to be critically analyzing every solutions coming up from the curriculum or coming out from the education are being able to analyze for the quote unquote feasibility of the delivery model for their respective country. So I think the overall paradigm is that we are increasing the emphasis of students to understand the shared responsibility for our future world together. And they also have to understand that to make sure globally how we are able to enjoy a safer, healthier, and more prosperous world together is that we will be able and we will be willing to abide to a social common agreement. I think one thing, one experiences, one lessons we learned from the pandemic in different countries is that only when the society is willing to abide to a shared agreement for either the hygiene or health conduct or a guideline that the society will be able to achieve on the ultimate safety. The third perspective, moderator, is inquiring what happens next for those students and those following, or how we can share some of the key challenges graduates are currently facing when it comes to the world of work. Now, from the most recent international labor statistic, we identify that clearly what the age group of 16 to 24 maybe are previously the group with the highest unemployment rate. Now, this particular young workers groups would be likely to be in even having a job further impacted by the COVID-19. And another sort of suffering effect is when the economy returns, this particular group would still be affected worst or affect the greatest. So how this particular generations now in our sector would have the understanding that instability will become a new norm. So how one can best embrace the constant changes of the situation, how one is ready to best prepare for undertaking those changes with the open, calm, and welcoming mindset is the key to really confront the challenges. Throughout all the academic institutions now, or the higher education sector, we are seeing a greater and greater percentage of students now are reporting the psychological impact from all these pandemic challenges. What we see are a more vulnerable group. What we are seeing a group uncertain for their future. So one key feature now, at least for NCKU and the other institutions down in our neighborhood, is spending more and more resources, emphasizing and allocating more time and space to make sure that every coursework having some component, some presence of supporting and encouraging students to embrace the changes, to make sure they would take the instability of the future situation, the future world is a known. It's a known. They have to calmly accept it. It's a known. They have to sort of immersing into their learning model. Finally, how would the industries like to see the graduates, particularly when they are in this type of educational model? I think the industry, at least through the conglomerate that we have interacted regularly on a daily basis, they emphasize and they are looking at and they are hoping that the graduates coming through this pandemic era would have the ability to think more systematically. They would have the ability to integrate information and they have the ability to coordinate individuals. I think when we are seeing more and more meetings, they are coming from an individual setting. They are put together very, very sort of dissectively from individual components. One thing that is definitely more critical than ever is how one can integrate information from individual resources, how one can communicate more effectively and more understandingly through different individual of different backgrounds. So university should even more crystal clear about his own strengths in terms of distinctive attributes of our graduates before too quickly coming up or making a decision in how one's curriculum should be changed or should not be reformed. We definitely should not cater our curriculum only toward specific needs of any single industry. But nevertheless, catering to the industrial needs does not necessarily mean that the university is compromising our educational core value. If there comes a genuine and visionary communication between the corporate leaders and the university faculty body, often the curriculum may fit best for both sectors because it can be more likely to ensure the delivery models are better in place when the graduates are posted in the sort of work site. So at least these are the few working highlights or working principles that we have adopted and NCKU since 2020. It has been proven relatively successful. We are seeing the highest ever publication number academically, but at the same time, we are joining in by the largest ever of industrial partners in our university history. And at the same time, we are now creating more and more sort of corporate research and partner center in the university history. And all these programs are lined up directly with the corporate leaders to map out a multi-year long-term plan in terms of facilitating education, in terms of lining up the practicum program, in terms of how we facilitate faculty exchange from academia to industry, in terms of how we supporting graduates, or no, how we supporting students from the time they are in the campus all the way through their life sort of career development in respective industry. So I see crisis is also the time to see the opportunity. When changes is become a regular norm, I guess we need the ability to embrace the new norm. That is, changes is a part of our daily life, and we have the capacity to respond to changes. So with that, I thank you for the time, and I hope that at least very much go in line with the interests of the moderator in terms of responding to your inquiries. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Hui Jen Jenisu, for the enlightening sharing. Your insight into preparing students for the post-COVID-19 graduate labor market was very instructive, I think, but I particularly like listening about how you ensure that all the courses at National Cheng Kung University emphasizes on the students, on training or preparing the students to adapt to changes through their curriculum, and also to train the students to analyze issues and present their views from their different social and cultural background. I think that is really very, very interesting. Thank you, Prof. Dr. Jenisu. Right. I think now I will have to move to our second panelist. Allow me to invite our second panelist, Prof. Emeritus Tan Sri Dr. Anwar Ali, the Chancellor of Universiti Cyberjaya Malaysia, to share his perspective on how COVID-19 could change the world of work. Prof. Tan Sri, the floor is yours. Thank you. Your mic is not on, Prof.
Yes. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and very good morning. Thank you so much, Dr. Wadatul, as the chairperson of this very important webinar this morning. May I also recognize our distinguished panelists today, as well as the participant. I can see that we have almost 185 participants this morning. Thanks to AKEPT and of course UMS, Professor Topik, for inviting me this morning. Being in the academic world for many years. I think at the end of my, I'm only 75. At the end of my career, I think probably I won't be as detailed as Professor Jenny from Taiwan. But nevertheless, let me look at the overall employment of graduates as well as the unemployment issue of graduates from the perspective of Malaysia. Of course, we can learn much more from Taiwan, for instance. Now, let me just say there are three aspects which I want to emphasize. One is, what is the problem at the moment that we are facing in Malaysia and perhaps in our neighboring countries as well? Secondly, why this has happened? It has become a big issue now, especially so with the disruption that we know as a result of COVID-19 that came in at the beginning of last year. And what are the challenges that we face as a nation, as universities, as the government, as well as the private sector that drive our economy? Now, for the moment, the distortion that we see in the labor market is extremely disadvantageous in many ways, affecting not only our graduates, but all the more the youth and first-time job seekers. Of course, the statistics, I'm sure Tan Sri Azlan is familiar with this. Last year alone, there's about 200,000 unemployed graduates in Malaysia, whereupon more than 50% of these those graduates that are employed have to wait for more than 3 months, meaning that the ability to be employed is certainly much less because of the current situation. And only about 45% as they graduate, they can get a job within the first 3 months of graduation. Let me also say, and I observe this is not a new phenomenon. It's not because of COVID alone that Malaysia or perhaps many of our neighboring countries are facing this situation. But nevertheless, it has been persistent and exacerbated because of the COVID in the last couple of years. Now, consistently, Malaysia produces about slightly over 86,000 graduates per year. Every year, we have about 86,000 graduates. And from the figures that I get, only 1/3 of those will be employed matching their qualification, their academic qualifications. Whereas 1/3 of those may be employed at a mid-skill or low-skill occupation. They just go in, they get employed, and they just have to earn a living. So that's the situation we see in Malaysia and perhaps in our other developing countries. So because of this problem of the mismatch between what a graduate gets at the end of their university days and the needs of the industry that absorb them, we find that there's a problem, there's the issue of underemployment of graduates. And that, to me, is a waste of our talent, a waste of our manpower, which could be used for other, say, more skilled jobs or for more higher productivity industries or enterprises. So because of this, for the moment, and because of COVID, I think we find that the prospect of our new graduates, perhaps in the next couple of years as well, seem to be bleak. And we always say, particularly people from industry, and I see policymakers too, seem to blame the quality of the graduates many a time. But certainly we ask ourselves, don't tell me at least 1/3 or even half of the graduates are not that excellent, not that good. So if everybody is, being blamed as being your quality is no good, I mean, the whole structure of the university education is to be looked into. But I find that over the years, the industry people, industry association, is easier to blame the universities actually. But let us look at the demand side. We are looking at the supply side. The graduates that universities produce. What about the demand side, the industry side, the manufacturing sector, the structural economy, and so on? Of course, it's quite different perhaps from Taiwan, Korea, and so on. Now, on the demand side, we look over the years. One is the problem of low level of absorption of highly skilled jobs. Remember at the beginning, I said only 1/3 of graduates are being, employed as being highly skilled. The rest are not. Now, that means the absorption of our highly skilled people seem to be lagging behind the number that we produce from the universities. Now, secondly, we find that the structure of our industries are dominated by small and medium-scale industries and micro enterprises. And this is so obvious now because these very micro enterprises, these really small-scale industries that employ, say, less than 50 people, and most of them employ perhaps less than 10 people, they are the worst. We haven't grown up. We haven't become what the policymakers want us to be, a high-income economy. So that's Malaysia for us at the moment. Thus, because of this industry structure, we think that there are issues related to low productivity, lack of investment in high technology. There's no upgrading of technology. Innovation is not so conspicuous, not so transparent. On the policy side, let me just share with the participant. We have actually, in the early 1990s, a technology plan. Before that, we have industrial matter plan. Industrial matter plan, I think we have 3 of them. And we have a lot of planning. And that's one of the issues that I can see happening in our country, Malaysia, where the problem of, or rather the good thing about planning is not matched by meticulous implementation of what we plan. So thus, we find that R&D activities, innovation, as I said earlier, seem to be lagging in terms of the growth of our industries, manufacturing sector, and so on. So thus, ladies and gentlemen, in last year, I looked at the statistics from the Department of Statistics. When we look at the total graduate employment, those that are graduated, there's a few, I think a few million, I can't remember exactly. But about 77%, imagine, go to the services sector, meaning graduates will be into the services sector, maybe marketing, selling of product, being teachers, and so on. But the number that go to manufacturing, which is important, which is an engine of growth, is only 14.6% of the total number of graduates working in 2020, and less more in agriculture. In agriculture, it's less than 2%. But we all know that agriculture in our country is still very important. Agriculture in whatever aspect is still important, but only about 2% of total graduate last year work in agriculture. So there seem to be unbalance in that sense. Now coming to the preparing our graduate for the future, post-COVID or otherwise, is certainly, and we agree with Professor Jani, that it is the most critical and challenging. But to me, in the context of any nation, particularly so in the developing country like Malaysia, there should be a very, very effective tripartite collaboration. Commitment between the government, the public sector, with their policies, with the right policies, and the right way to implement. Second component is industry, people in the private sector. And of course, the third component, equally important, is our universities. So, post-COVID, if we want to help our graduates, or, in the years, in 1 year or 2 years coming out, what is our policy in terms of short term, medium term, or long term? So this has to be worked out. And to me, an important role with the government as a catalytic, as planning and implementation. That we have to see. Because I, for one, wouldn't be able to distinguish between short term and long term. So this is to ensure that, to me, like most developing countries, planning must be matched by good implementation. We have gone through, as I said, a number of industrial master plan, fire plan, and so on. But it seems that we have to look deeper into this, because the quality investment is also important. I mean, we drum up the idea that foreign investment is very important in Malaysia. But, since the 70s, we have been drumming this idea, foreign investment, foreign investment, foreign investment. But it has not been matched by a proper, upgrading of our very own enterprises, manufacturing or otherwise, with good investment in R&D, technology, and so on. That's, to me, is very important. And secondly, the importance of upgrading the operational sizes. We have lots and lots of micro, enterprises, but they are selling cakes, nasi lemak on the roadside. That's all that is quite a big chunk, and we haven't grown up for the past, say, 20 years. And yet, when we see people saying that we must be competitive, we must be in the global market, and so on. So I think that's, to me, must be matched by what we do to encourage investment in the proper industries, enterprises, matched by our very own investment. I think it's high time that we have to be selective if we want foreign investment that can bring us high quality jobs and a lot of investment in R&D. The last one I want to mention is about, do I have time, Doc, Chairman?
1 minute.
1 minute. Oh, anyway, on the university level, I think I fully agree. This has been said so many times. I think I don't want to expand on it. Is that whatever we produce must be dependent on the quality of teaching and learning. Very, very important. That means academic faculty members must be up to it. and give the best to the student, because this will imply in the context of now, how do you move to a higher level of teaching with online teaching, blended online and so on. But besides teaching, I think we have to be very, very focused on student-centered services. The student will learn a lot. I mean, we all go through this process. When we were in the first term, first year, first semester, you know, we are inundated by these big, big things. We see a professor, we get scared and so on. But the student has to be looked after. And people, last point, Chairperson, people talk about curriculum development. I always see in forum like this, people say, oh, the university must improve their curriculum, especially from industry. But you tell me, how often you look at examine properly curriculum? To enhance curriculum, normally it takes a cycle of 3 or 4 years. And at the same time, we all been there. We know that curriculum improvement means 3 or 4 subjects. You just add on. But that doesn't solve the problem. The problem to me, or the issue is to me, as I said earlier, is the quality of our teaching. That must come first. And one more thing, last Chairperson, we talk about values, ethics, soft skills. I mean, I always see people blame the university. If the undergraduate is no good, he can't speak well, he can't speak English, they blame the university. No, it's not the university, it's the whole structure of education system. From primary one until your last day at the university. You learn soft skills, ethics, values. You don't learn just the 4 years or 3 years at the university. So people get mixed up because they like to blame the professors. They like to blame the university. Prof. Taufik, is he a scapegoat? But they don't see the real situation, because in developing ethics, in developing good values, it has to start from home as well. Home and the school. That's important. And to me, last point, Chairperson, is how we coordinate policy making, implementation, how we actually operationalize what we plan with the government sector, with the private sector, and with the universities. So I stop there, and I hope I've done justice to my presence this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Prof. Emeritus Tan Sri Datuk Dr. Anwar bin Ali, on behalf of everyone today, thank you for taking time to speak to us. And I think indeed, everyone here would agree that definitely this is not a new phenomenon, and we should not only penalize the supply, meaning university, for all the problems that is going to crop up after the pandemic. The demand side also will have to take up this big responsibility, kan, Tan Sri? Right, okay.
Thank you.
Now, I think I will break for our panelist session for a while, because we received a question specifically for Prof. Jenny. Prof. Jenny? Okay. All right. There's a question here for you, asking, besides providing the support for students, is there any specific strategy moves that CKU takes to look into the current curriculum to prepare the students' future to work in the industry? Okay, Prof. Jenny?
Yes, let me try to make it very, very brief. I think at least one thing is the literacy for the new skills, the prominent or the prevailing new skills, namely, for instance, the computing, the appreciation to computing power, the appreciation for how digital world is right there, it's right in our door. And then across all disciplines, you at least have that appreciation as to how it's going to impact on your sort of existing domains. So taking that as an example, we established the university level of education for all students of all backgrounds in terms of their understanding, their skill and literacy to the future computing. So that becomes some of their core competency, regardless whether you are a literature major, you are a management major, and you, in particular, if you are a design major or engineering major, that would have to be some of your basic skill and basic literacy for the future world. On the other hand, we also make sure that students have the first hand of the appreciation for the future society as to how the ecosystem will be lined up for respective industry connecting to their specific academic training or academic education. I want very much to echo Professor Alice's comment. I think as far as my institution is concerned, unemployment is not so much an issue. But for university, like University Malaysia Sabah and us, we have to be very sensitive to how our graduates is going to be lined up and facilitating our society development in the future. So not only make sure that we'll be properly employed, but we also have to be mindful to guide them into understanding how that different sectors are also requiring the output of excellent or able university graduates. So they can not only sort of aiming for their own personal growth. For instance, most of our graduates will go into the world-renowned TSMC, the Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing company, well-paid and well-received, and a good return income-wise for themselves. But we have to make sure that the other components, the other sectors of the society, also when they are aiming for innovation, for changing, for upgrading their future capacity, they will be very much in need of competitive and able graduates like those come through NCKU and Universiti Malaysia Sabah. So they're part of the social understanding, they're part of social engagement, they're part of the social responsibility is also something that we educate very early to make sure in our curriculum, our students have that understanding. And so that they will be able to go into the other side, the other sort of sectors of the industry as well, and not just for one industry, not just serve for one industry. With that, I see the opportunities open up even more tremendously well and rewarding for our graduates as well. So that would be my humble input for the moment.
Thank you, Prof. Jenny. All right. So I guess now it is with great pleasure for me to introduce our third panelist, very close to home, our very own Vice Chancellor of Universiti Malaysia Sabah, Professor Dato' Chemist Technologist, Dr. Taufik Yap Yun Hin. Prof. Dato', the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Warda, as a moderator and distinguished panelists for our program today. Professor Jenny Su from National Cheng Kung Universities, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Anwar Ali as Chancellor of the University of Cyberjaya, and also our another panelist from UNES Indonesia. Yes, indeed, the future job market will be far different from what we have in the past and will be far challenging for both the graduates, not only for the graduate, as well as the universities as well. For the next 1 or 2 years, the world is predicted to the experience of the COVID-19 induced recession, which is anticipated to affect both the economics and also the business severely, and hence the job opportunity as well. Even before the current pandemic, changing technologies and also new ways of working were disrupting the traditional jobs and also redefine the skill needed to do them. due to the rapid development in automations, the internet, and also the artificial intelligence. Hence, the COVID-19 pandemic has simply aggravated the changes in the employment environment and also make the transformation more urgent. And this would mean that as educators, we will have to adapt, adjust, and also finding ways to reinvent our syllabus to meet the expectation of the employers and prepare our graduates to the anticipated new changes in the way workers perform their job in the future. For instance, future employment is expected to focus more on semi and also high skill labor as opposed to low skill labor. Also utilizes IR 4.0 such as automation, artificial intelligence, online platform in its operation as compared to the physical resources such as opening of branches and also employing large number of workers and also offering more flexibility in terms of employment contract as against the strict employment contract related to the working hours, place of work, and also performance incentive. Apart from the changing technology and also intense competitions, the changing employment landscape was also stimulated by the behavior, the lifestyles, and also expectation of the youngest generation who appreciate individual freedom, openness, the flexibilities, and also creativities as compared to the older and the ruler abiding generation who appreciate the lifetime commitment and also loyalty to an organization or company where they work. I personally believe that to meet these challenges, the universities should craft a talent strategies that can develop the students' critical digital and also cognitive capabilities, the social and also emotional skills, and also the adaptability and resilience. Developing this skill will also strengthen the competitiveness of our students and also make them ready for the future job market. With regards to the skills and also competencies required, an article published in one of the top university website, the promoters of the QS World University Ranking outline 5 attributes that employers are looking for in the graduates, which namely, the first one is academic qualifications. So it's a good grades and also suitability of the academic qualifications with the job applied. The second one is the right soft skill, especially qualities such as self-motivation, proactive, professional communication, teamwork, and also problem-solving abilities. International experience, such as studying or having working abroad, which may also include the international mobility program and also activity. The next one is a targeted job application, research on the job applied and also the company. And last one is the ambition and also the flexibility, which is the career target. In facing the future job challenges and also preparing our graduate for international market, the graduate must also possess other complementary skills such as technology savviness, emotional intelligence, creativities, and also adaptability, as well as a good communication skill, either verbal or written in at least 2 different languages. One of the pertinent issue among the higher learning providers is the mismatch between the academic qualification of the graduates and also the industry needs. On this note, I welcome the announcement of our Honorable Prime Minister, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri, during his presentation on the 12th Malaysian plan yesterday, which introduced a more flexible higher learning system, digital education plan, as well as the job creation strategy plan for 2021 to 2023. So I believe that to prepare the graduate for the future job market, the university should be proactive, creative, and also adaptive enough to revise their academic curriculum from time to time to meet the changes in the industries, especially maybe the needs which may change from time to time, and also the job market, and also reduce the mismatch between academic qualification of the graduate and the industry need. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato. Yeah, I think all of us will agree that this, what we say, this COVID-19 pandemic definitely will lead to big changes to our world at large, and specifically at the workforce. So yes, I would agree with all the suggestions that you have shared, Dato. I would also like to pick up on one question from Lingnan University, Hong Kong. Okay, maybe Tan Sri would like to pick up on this. Pertaining to preparing students for graduate labor market in the future, we have aimed to equip students with different skills, i.e. 4Cs, 21st century skills, A1, etc. However, assessment of students surprisingly remain the same as what we did probably 2 or 3 decades ago. Okay. Thus, to what extent are the lecturers or educators ready to shift their paradigm in assessing students, particularly during the pandemic? Also, throughout the pandemic, we have put much pressure on lecturers, faculty members to adjust and adapt their curriculum and pedagogy, etc. But to what extent are the supports given to them? Okay, I think not only Tan Sri here, in fact, all the 4 panelists may want to have some a go at answering this question.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wadatul. And that's a good question. But I did mention about the quality of teaching and learning at the university. I think it needs to be emphasized. And secondly, given the current situation, moving into a new platform of teaching online, mixed, blended, and so on, the faculty should be into this kind of area. And I think, again, I always mention about the importance of student-centeredness. Whether a university, given the current situation, at least in Malaysia, I'm not sure in Indonesia or Taiwan, the certain KPIs, key performance indicators, are given to the lecturers, to the academic staff. So at the faculty level, whether, to me, whether the importance of teaching and learning is given prominence. You know, one of the interesting things which I always mention to friends, this may be happening in many universities. The first year student get the professors to teach you. So you're always overwhelmed. But at the current stage, I think some faculties, I'm not saying all, they give to new PhD holders or sometimes even masters to teach first year students. So that makes a difference. That makes a difference. In terms of the communication skill, ethics, as the question says just now, Professor Taufik also has mentioned it. The importance of looking at this throughout your school system. You can't say when the student graduate, oh, you can't talk English, you can't communicate well. That's But one must always remember, which is very important, that 1/3 or probably half or 60% of our graduate, we have no problem. We are only dealing with the bottom half. And it's not unexpected because enrollment in universities has increased so much. So you scrap the bottom, you know. Some universities
Yeah.
get the worst student from the school system. And I don't know what they learned during the 3 years at the university. But as far as subject content, I think the responsibility of the faculty is, I think you can you know, give them top marks. Most faculty will take care of that. But the other capabilities, it has to start from school. Even English. I don't believe when you reach a university, you improve your English. No. It has to start from the school. Thank you.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Thank you, Tan Sri. Prof. Jenny, anything to add to that?
Briefly, I think let me first acknowledge the challenges on the sort of a learning assessment remain very, very much an issue with the large scale of now online learning, especially for university institutions like us, that previously we are proud with our graduates who are most recognized for their ability in the hands-on capacity or the hands-on ability to make things work, to make things delivered. Now, in the new form of education, how can we still very effectively and communicate with either the society or the industrial sector that our students remain or our graduates remain at that level of competency? It's some way. It's a way sort of requires a way of presenting that particular competency. At the same time, we allocate and we are extremely sort of mindful to the need of faculty support. They at the university level, not only we have to issue a new understanding to appreciating their time and effort in the new form of education and how do we appreciate their teaching contribution. So we have many new awards established over the past couple of years to recognize the changes. At the same time, we are building up the critical mass in terms of the sort of a digital TA or the other supporting staff and sector to make sure that faculty are comfortable of delivering their best sort of knowledge, the best level of their knowledge and their eloquently through the supporting system of the university. So there's something brief that I wish to add, maybe in responding to the inquiry from colleague from Ningnan University, a close associated with NCKU as well.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Prof. All right, okay, we'll continue with our panelist session. Looks like we have come right along to our fourth and final panelist. Okay, it is my pleasure to introduce our panelist, our last panelist, Prof. Dr. Zainuri Mastor, the Vice Rector of Academic Affairs of the Universitas Negeri Semarang or UNES, Indonesia. Prof. Zainuri? You're here, right?
Dr. Wanda.
Waalaikumsalam. Waalaikumsalam. Alhamdulillah. Okay, Prof. Doctor. Now, with the arrival of COVID-19, the way we work appeared to change, right? Almost overnight. Could you please share with us ways ahead that has been planned from the Indonesian higher education perspective? The floor is yours, Prof. Doctor.
I can share.
Excuse me, I can share PPT, PowerPoint. Dr. Wanda. Okay, thank you.
Nggak bisa, belum di-allow.
Oh, I can share PowerPoint, Dr. Wanda. Excuse me.
1 minute. 1 minute.
Oh, okay.
Nggak ada ya, Pak.
Ya wis.
Can
Bismillah.
you share now?
Bisa no?
No.
No, Dr. Wanda?
Oh, ya.
Okay.
1 minute. Our technical team is trying to allow you. Okay, you should be okay now.
Do you see my PowerPoint?
Okay, we can see. Can you play your PowerPoint then?
Okay.
Masih loading.
Yeah. Yeah, we can see it now.
It's already loading.
Oh.
No. It's already there. Can you just click play?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Wanda. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning from Semarang, Indonesia. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to Allah SWT for blessing and mercy that we could meet in the second webinar AKEPT Global Series, University Leaders Forum in collaboration with Universiti Malaysia Sabah virtually. On behalf of Universitas Negeri Semarang, UNES, allow me, Rector of UNES, take great pleasure in welcoming you all speakers. The first, Professor Dr. Jenis, SU, Professor Tan Sri Datuk Dr. Anwar bin Ali, the third, Professor Dr. CHM PS Dr. Taufik Yap Yun Hin, the great moderator, Dr. Wanda, all participants in this forum. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce the vision of UNES to be a conservation insight university with international reputation. UNES has spirit, a house of knowledge. Here, we always build our campus to develop the civilization and producing quality of human resources in various fields in order to make better life. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to bring your attention to our milestones UNES start from 2020 up to 2024. UNES is a teaching institute of higher education, or here in Indonesia commonly called LPTK.
Sini, let's do it. Okay. Sini, Dr. Wanda mau bilang.
Prof.
Yes,
Zainuri,
okay.
could we have a short break? I'm sorry. I think it's already nearly another minute to 12 o'clock. My gosh, time is flying so fast. And time is very envious of us, and also Prof. Dr. Hui Jenny Su will have to leave our forum due to another commitment. However, we would like to thank you for your time and input that you have shared during the panel discussion, Prof. Jenny. Please take care, and really hope that we'll meet again in another platform in the future, inshallah. Thank you, Prof. Jenny.
Apologize.
Okay.
I have been inspired.
Thank you, Prof. Jenny. Thank you,
Yes.
Prof. Jenny.
Listen, thank you. Apologize.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Prof. Zainuri, okay, shall we continue? Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Dr. Wanda. Yeah.
Thank you, Prof.
I would like to bring your attention to our milestone UNES start from 2020 up to 2024. UNES is a teaching institute of higher education, and here in Indonesia commonly called LPTK, Lembaga Pendidikan Tenaga Kependidikan. So we are having two principal aim, growing as a research university and teaching university. UNES as a house of knowledge, we are growing and continuing to innovative in any sectors, including in preparing students face the pandemic disruption. We can see here that we have physical distancing effect and job transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, here are the pandemic sector's disruption. First, construction sector, second, educational sector, tourism sector, and social distancing effect. This sector creates the job growing demand, such as e-commerce has grown 2 or 5 times compared than before pandemic. IT specialists and professionals, big data, AI and machine learning, digital transformation, information security, and software development, IoT. Job related to STEAM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, professionals and increasingly creative, effective material for education. Ladies and gentlemen, as a rector, I'm so happy that all academic staff and faculty members are engaging students to maintain student competence, join the job fair, increase student skill, and understand intelligent character. All of UNES and UNES are committed to create students have a moral and character education so they will be ready to face any unpredictable condition. All students are aware with this rule, the first UNES spirit, the second UNES conservation pillars, the third UNES 8 main value, and the fourth principle of good leadership. It is important for ensuring the character of students when they are facing the real life. Therefore, owners will have the alumni with proper work or being entrepreneur or even continuing their study. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the strategy on how owners facilitate the career of students. The first, developing certification internship program. Second, providing job fair periodically with the partners industries. The third, having a networking with the alumni. The fourth, enhancing the quality of professional teaching. Fifth, prepare studentpreneur with some student business management schemes. Six, promoting and designing fast track and scholarship to continue their study. Ladies and gentlemen, here are some international schools with gift things for UNES students learn how to be a professional teacher and officers in this time. Meanwhile, these are international industries with providing internship during COVID-19 outbreak. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, it is expected in this forum we can produce significant and valuable ideas and also design the various possible contribution to the education system in the world. I hope we can continuously build and develop collaboration with foreign institutions to improve human resources and bring out goodness to the world. Thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam, Prof. Doctor. Thank you for your interesting exchange. I also see that you suggest that to be ready for the post-COVID job market, the graduate should also be trained, should be given moral and character education. Something interesting there. Yes, indeed, I think this is important for them to be able to face the test and trial of life, right? Not only due to pandemic, I think it's a general thing, which is very good. Right. Okay, my dear panelists, I humbly thank you for all the wonderful contributions. Many of our audience today, I believe, are our future graduates. And I believe they should be enlightened on what their future job scene will be like. I think it is safe to say that while we cannot be completely certain how the workplace will change in the years ahead, it is reasonable to predict that um, a shift towards a more flexible, digital, and sustainable way of working is what we should be looking forward to. Now I think we should go back to the question and answers slot to address some of the questions that we have received from the audience. Okay. There's one here. I think which is also suitable maybe. Prof. Tan Sri, there is a question here asking, how can we promote the foreign investment during COVID-19 pandemic? Also, what are the essential skills needed after the pandemic in order to increase the employment opportunities? I think the second part has been answered by, I think, a few repeatedly by our panelists. But the first part, how can we promote the foreign investment during COVID-19 pandemic? Would you like to
Okay,
share?
let me just say in this way. We promote foreign investment no matter when. The issue is the quality of the investment. Whether one is they bring in a higher level of technology, bringing in research and development activities or initiative, perhaps linked with the universities. And thirdly, the training of our employees at their factory level. So that's important because you cannot bring in any foreign investment without looking at those issues, because we have been foreign investment since 1768. We have the Investment Incentive Act in 1968 when I was an undergraduate student. But I think the quality is very important. So if you have research activities that help other industries, we have backward and forward linkages with other home-based manufacturers or enterprises, that would be great. But can we ask any university, for instance, now, how many R&D projects do they have with foreign-owned companies? I'm not so sure we have the good linkages there, because foreign investment just bring in most cases, to utilize our labor, which means compared to their countries, cheaper than that, and it won't be the very high level or quality or productivity that needs to be encouraged in our industries. That's my short answer. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof. Tan Sri. All right. There is another question here, which I think I would like to propose to Prof. Zainuri. Prof. Zainuri, okay.
Thank you.
There's
Yeah.
one question here. Yeah. This Bamini from Faculty of Business, Economy and Accountancy, UMS. Okay, from UMS. She would like to get some perspective on undergraduate business or startup acceleration program as a way to prepare our graduates to expand their entrepreneurial capabilities. I see just now in your slide you have some at UNES you have some programs that prepares your student for entrepreneur, right? Maybe you can share that with us.
Okay, bantu deh. Pak Ali dulu habis. Okay, thank you, Dr. Wanda. Thank you, Professor Anwar Ali. We can promote link and match in Indonesia, the curriculum between industry and university. In Indonesia, we have program MBKM, Merdeka Belajar Kampus Merdeka, Independent Campus, Independent Learning. So students learn directly into the company. Lecturer can answer what company needed. Thank you. Regarding to entrepreneur, Dr. Wanda, step increasing of a studentpreneur of entrepreneur, student business management scheme by government, the number of alumni that have a career and as entrepreneur, cover student experience entrepreneurial activity to course credit with have some identical learning outcome. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. Zanuri. What about you, Prof. Tan Sri? Do you have any specific programs as such that address these at your university?
Excuse me, program apa? What's
Okay, the Pamini would like to know whether there's any startup acceleration program available that prepares the graduates to expand their entrepreneurial capabilities after they have graduated.
I'm sorry, Dr. Wadatul. I don't think I can answer. I am not on the ground, so to speak.
Okay, all right, okay.
I left the campus many years ago.
Yes. Okay,
Maybe
Dato'.
Prof Taufik.
Yes,
VC.
Prof. BC, Dr.
Yeah,
Taufik.
yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I mean, on the entrepreneurship of the students, I think this is one of our main active activities, which are done by UMS actually, to have the upskilling and also reskilling program, especially on the entrepreneurship of the students. And this skill actually is very important for them to know, to have extra knowledge, and also not only having those what I call it theoretical part in the university, but as well as the direct hands-on experience with some of these companies which working with us, and also training for them in in the industry as well. And some of them also we have programs such as the Plan Jana Semula Ekonomi Negara or Penjana, and this also one of these program which organized together with the industry to help the students to increase their knowledge on these particular things actually. And in fact, we are always encourage students, because sometimes students they have a, what they call it, comfort zone, which they don't want to learn something new. I think a student have to openly accept, and also they must willing to learn new things during this pandemic era. In fact, even though we go for endemic as well, they must have a willingness to learn new things for survival in the next future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato'. Sri Azlan, are you still around? Sri Azlan?
Tan Sri Azlan is still around actually.
I think so. Sri Azlan, could we have some well suggestions and insight into this issue from you, please?
Okay. Thank you very much. Congratulations, AKEPT and UMS, Prof. Taufik, and all the speakers. I'm enjoying listening to all of you. To some of our international colleagues, just a brief alerting you where I am now. I'm kind of a successor to Tan Sri Anwar, was a Vice Chancellor of UKM from 2014 to 2018. Now I'm an economist, so now since the pandemic started March last year, I am seconded to the Economic Action Council. Basically at the Prime Minister Department to look into various aspects of the economic issues. I just want to touch very briefly on probably the pandemic and the the universities. We completed a recent study, quite a very detailed studies. One for sure is that I must convey this to all of my colleagues, myself as well, and to convince everyone that the landscape will change. The changes is real, and the changes are permanent. And it's very important for all of us to identify and also act on these changes in the landscape. Number two, my concern rests very much on the readiness of the faculty members to respond to the change, especially in terms of assuring the graduates that we produce are able to function in the new landscape. I agree with Tan Sri Anwar, Professor Tan Sri Anwar. Sometimes all of us are being overloaded by too much from the government and the industries to the point that many think that all the problems started at the universities. So I will agree with Tan Sri Anwar that it is not all problems started at the supply side. For the case of Malaysia, it's very clear and obvious we have problems of demand side as well. So the numbers of new jobs that requires tertiary qualification is way behind the numbers of graduates that we produced. But let me come quickly to the role of the faculty members. I don't know, I must also share my personal experience being the Vice Chancellor before. Through that, we as scholars are also being chased by certain other kind of productivities of ours in terms of producing research, papers, scholarly journals, and so on. But I'm very concerned about the attention of the faculty members given to the students. In many cases, gradually, this role of ours is faded, is taken away for the sake that to produce something else. So I look forward for all the vice chancellors and the faculty members here to take students' quality very seriously, to the point that we understand that what happened to them after they left us. In many Malaysian universities, sorry if I generalize this, but I believe I am right, that sometimes there are elements of taken for granted. That, you know, the fact that they exit from the university and that's it. Very minimal that we pay attention in terms of their employability, their quality, whether they are really, gaining acceptance by the market out there. So I think that's why, you know, in Malaysia, we have so many programs attending the students, but we don't have that many programs attending the faculty members. Faculty members mostly were born out of universities. They stay graduated from universities, they become faculty members, and all along their life is actually on campus and quite limited that have exposures and interaction out there. So I think this is actually the list that I think very important for all of us. I mean, I myself from the universities to take that into account. Thank you. Thank you, and congratulations again for the sessions. And I really enjoy listening to colleagues from Indonesia, from Taiwan. You know, UCAM has a lot of work in Taiwan. I mean, I spent a lot of time there visiting so many universities in Taiwan and in Indonesia as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Thank you. Yes, that's very apt. I think whatever you have said and suggested just now. Now we come to our next question. This question was posed by our previous Vice Chancellor. So I think since we have a mixture of a Chancellor here, a Vice Chancellor here, and also a Deputy Vice Chancellor academic here, I think this next question is also important to be discussed. Prof. Dato D. Kamarudin asked whether the usual international university ranking, whether it's still relevant at the current moment due to the change in our life. So is it still a valid thing for us all at the university? Prof. Dato Taufik, would you like to start the ball rolling?
Thank you very much. University ranking is always a good, discussion sometimes. Well, some of them, they believe that ranking is important, but some of others, maybe ranking is not important. Well, whatever is it, we are not obsessed with this ranking basically. But at least this ranking tells us where we are actually and how we sit at the moment. And I believe it is still relevant and it become a very specific games university in the world, and I believe that we still continue to go for it because there are some itinerary, there are some important content of this ranking is important for the university. For example, on the publications and also research as well as the citation. Well, it tell us on the impact of the work that which has been done by the faculty's members actually. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Dato. Prof. Zanuri, what do you think? What is your opinion from Indonesia regarding this issue of international university ranking? Is it still very important?
15.
Please.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Wanda. University ranking is important for us, for UNES. By this rank, we can assess who we are. Okay.
Teruskan. That's it. Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Tan Sri Anwar, what about the perspective from the private university?
Okay. I personally, over the years, I've been watching this. Whether we should be, as Prof. Taufik was saying, whether we should pay too much attention. It is a byproduct of we being told by the West that you should follow this because it's Anglo-based ranking to me. But university should spend more time on the quality of teaching, on the quality of learning, their graduate as we discussed. Ranking, if you spend money on it, I think better put aside. Secondly, I don't see any European universities in the ranking. Don't tell me we are better than some of the German universities, some of the Russian universities, European universities. So the ranking is Anglo-based. Is US, UK, Australia, Canada also not interested, I think. So where do you go from here? I think Prof. Taufik is wise enough. Don't spend any single cent on all this. To me, it's a waste of time. You better spend your money on training the academic staff to be better, to be linking to the student. I think that's more worthwhile.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dato. Thank you, Tan Sri. Yes.
I see Prof. Smiling.
Yes.
I think it's the more important. Thank you for the response. Actually, the more important is the impact of our work actually to the as a scholars in our area, as well as the impact to the society as well. So these two things are very important as a scholars in the university. Well, we are what do you call it? We are examined by the how good we are actually. But even though we are not in the ranking, but still we have to work as what we are doing now actually. So improve the research, to enhance the quality of the research, and also as what Tan Sri mentioned just now, the quality of the teaching. If we are good actually, our teaching quality is very good. I mean, during this period of time, I don't think so we can continue the way of what we teach. The methodology of teaching is the same as what we teach physically when the student can attend with us. But now we have to make the teaching quality of the teaching, methodology of teaching must be different, attractive, and also making the student more interest in what we teach actually, and the content of what we are teaching have to according to the knowledge advancement actually. Thank you.
Thank you, Datuk.
Can
Yes.
I another point which
Yes.
I think Prof.
Silakan,
Taufik
Tan Sri. Go
mentioned,
on.
Tan Sri Azlan also mentioned in terms of, I mean, the quality is uppermost in our mind. So
Exactly.
if we are talking about student, undergraduate, or even postgraduate, it has to be your excellent teachers or lecturers. And in university, you must have role models. The professors must be teaching also, and also not doing research all the time. Can I ask a question? Maybe Prof. Taufik can answer, or even our friend in Indonesia. How come
Zainuri.
now? I think Prof. Azlan also knows. Because one of the criteria is you have a lot of publication. Okay? As far as the economics is concerned, this is my area. Prof. Azlan is also familiar. How come a simple article of say 20 pages written by 8 people is mind-boggling, you know? So that's part of the KPI that I think should be looked into, because it destroys your ethical values, it destroys your integrity when you have one simple article written by 6 or 7 people. So I mean, it's not for this forum to answer lah, but give a thought, because our KPI may not be good for teaching and learning purposes.
Yeah.
That's
This may
big
be
problem.
picked up, yeah, again in another platform, inshallah, Tan Sri.
Yes.
Yes, inshallah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, that wraps up our morning. I'm not going to say that this is the end of this forum, because we can always take our discussion to a different platform, right?
Yes,
My
agree.
respected panelists, my beloved participants, before I hand back this forum to our Master of Ceremony, allow me to share this quote from J.F. Kennedy. Conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth. My beloved graduates, please take a look at what you have that's holding you back, and please sort it out before you join the job market. Once again, on behalf of AKEPT and also University Malaysia Sabah, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Master of Ceremony, I'll pass the floor back to you. Thank you.
Terima kasih.
Thank you, Yang Besaha Associate Professor Dr. Wadatul Akmamuddin, to moderate the session this morning. Thank you so much to it. Sincere thanks to all the panelists today. Professor Dr. Jenny Su, who is from Shenli Daxue. Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Dr. Anwar Ali, thank you so much. Professor Dr. Chemist Technologist Dr. Taufik Yap, and Professor Dr. Zainuri Mastur with Professor Tan Sri Ghazali. Thank you so much for the session. It was a fruitful session. It appeared that participants enjoy it. We can see all of the active comments and answers, questions as well. Thank you to all the former VCs, deputy VCs for the questions, comments, and all. I hope that all participants getting the important notes highlighted by the keynote speakers or panelists today. Tremendous moment for all of us to have these fruitful presentations by the panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, as we are reaching towards the end of the webinar, for the certifications of participations, before you leave the webinar today, please fill in the Google form, which will be provided by the organizing committee. It will be posted in the chat box. Click it on, fill it in, and certificate of participations will be emailed to you. Thank you for your kind cooperation and attention. To conclude today's wonderful webinar, we would like to invite Yang Busaha, Associate Professor, Dr. Yazrina Yahya, Deputy Director, Center for Leadership Sustainability of Higher Education's Leadership Academy, AKEPT Malaysia, for the closing remarks. Let us invite Yang Busaha, Associate Professor, Dr. Yazrina Yahya.
Thank you very much, Datuk Razali, for the MC for today. Yang berbahagia, Professor Datuk Dr. Nasruddin Muhammad, the Director of AKEPT, Professor Datuk Chemist TS Dr. Taufik Yap Yun Hing, Vice Chancellor, Universiti Malaysia Sabah, Professor Dr. Hui Jen Jenny Su, President, National Cheng Kung University, Taiwan, Professor Dr. Zainuri Mastur, Vice Rector of Academic Affairs, Universitas Negeri Semarang, UNES, Indonesia, Professor
you.
Emeritus Tan Sri Anwar Ali, Chancellor, University of Cyberjaya, Malaysia, Professor Tan Sri Datuk Sri Dr. Nur Azlan Ghazali, Executive Director, Malaysia Economic Action Council. And definitely to our moderator, Associate Professor Dr. Wadatul Akmamdeen, the Deputy Director of Center for Internationalization and Global Engagement, UMS. And of course, our honorable professors, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon all. It has indeed been what I would say a great or good or worthy discussion regarding this topic. An hour and a half seems to pass by very fast, and there is still very much for us to discuss when it comes to the youth future. We have listened to the insights and thoughts of these panel experts and what the respective leaders need to look into. However, I believe what is most important for us to move forward is also to learn to the youth, to listen from them and what do they have to say on this matter. Their opinions definitely matter to us, and perhaps this will be the next agenda in line to get the youth leaders or their representatives to speak on this topic, either in an event organized by the universities or by AKEPT itself. As we are already at the end of the session, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to first and foremost give my heartfelt thanks to Universiti Malaysia Sabah for this strategic collaboration with Higher Education Leadership Academy, AKEPT, through the Center for Leadership Sustainability for successfully executing this event. And I would like to express my appreciation to the panelists for their valuable contribution in the second series of webinar AKEPT Global Series, University Leaders Forum, with the theme Preparing Students for the Post-COVID-19 Graduates Labour Market. My deepest gratitude goes to all the participants who attended the webinar today up until the end and helped to make it such a successful event and waited here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the current crisis of the COVID-19 pandemic is really unprecedented over the century, one that presumably to be prolonged and probably an existential challenge for many organizations, including education institutions. Effective leadership is a crisis at the moment with such serious consequences is necessary for an institution and its people, academicians, administrators, students, and everyone involved in the higher institution. And it requires physical, psychological, and emotional fortitude. Now, boosting employability is the biggest motivator for students completing higher education degrees. Yet, many universities have traditionally argued their role is not to serve labor demands, but to educate. However, pressured by branding, the university through promotion of graduate employability and expectations of graduates when completing the studies, the need to be assured for graduates to get a good job at the end of a course is becoming more pressing. Across the years, since the introduction of AIs and robots, labor automation and the changing nature of work were concerns, particularly before the pandemic. However, with the pandemic, the challenges towards the global economy over the last 12 months has added to the challenge of securing graduate level jobs. As a short recall on the first series of this webinar, which was successfully held last month with the topic of leadership through the pandemic's understanding crisis fatigue, the first series had highlighted on the plaguing of pandemic fatigue on organizations and institutions. Hence, to ensure education continues, it is necessary for an institution to create predefined response plan for the pandemic. Operating model needs to be refreshed in order to boost and re-energize students as well as workforces to maintain the position of higher education institutions, structure, while adapting to the current and future issues that may arise. Indeed, conscientiousness is required from the leaders to ensure that the institution emerge stronger and together battling the pandemic. Mental health and well-being of the academia and students are important, and also the future of the graduates. For the last 3 or 4 years, our students have been studying for their degree or master or PhD with the hope that all their hard graft and effort will eventually pay off. But who could have predicted, that 2020, the pandemic happens? With 2021 is coming to the end within a few months, it has been almost 2 years and we are still in the midst of the pandemic crisis. Although huge efforts have been taken by the government, by the higher education institution, especially on learning stage process to ensure that students are on their graduation track. Following the increased rate of vaccination in the community, definitely that restrictions will be less stringent, more workers are going back, and therefore the labor market is hoped to recover and stabilize in order to lift again the perceptible and relevancy of higher education institutions related to career decisions. However, it is not as easy as it sounds. The supply and demand factor comes in. What is most important is for us at the higher education institutions to guide the students to be more resilient and agile and able to face their future to what may come. Of course, to do this will require another platform for us to look into the details. The insights from our panel experts are essential for the leaders at HEI to pick up and to look into how this issue needs to be addressed. It should not stop here. The leaders need to prepare the students and the future graduates for them to be able to face the future. As I have always taught, university is not a factory. It is not to produce a number of graduates, but it is a place where we produce scholars and graduates that are able to face the future and do best at the community. Following this forum, please allow me to highlight the key point of the discussion or sharing by the prominent panelists this morning. Employability at the end of 2021 and future forward is expected to be influenced by the presence of pandemic in terms of the need of the jobs. There'll be changing of landscapes in job opportunities, and little change might appear in the top jobs required in each country based on the open up industry sectors and networking that seem to be vital across the horizon, even with the disturbances of the future pandemic era. It is advised that students should not fail to engage in activities that will enhance their ability and skills to compete effectively in the graduate labor market, despite students stating that their main reason for going into higher education is to obtain a good job. Types of future forward employability should not be expected to be the same and easy or as easy as before the pandemic, since the world has undergone revival in different ways to rectify, with human beings and all the issues that comes up. The importance of looking at the future literacy or new recent knowledge required, such as digitalization, startup initiatives, like what CKU, UNES, and also UMS are doing is essential. It is producing the T-shaped students. So the students or those who are ever at the moment in the university, improving your communication, a different